Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Well, I'm telling you what, I'm going to have a great week. I had a great week. What they accomplished, men and women, it was amazing. I don't know how you can top that. So happy for them, proud of them, the way they carried themselves and the way they finished it. But yeah, it was incredible. Like what a moment in history for hockey and USA Hockey.
Chelly, you didn't go meet them in Miami to celebrate with them, did you?
No, unfortunately, I don't want to get into it, but I had to deal with a family issue. That's all good. But yeah, I was all set to go to Milan at one point after the quarterfinal, and then I'm not going to go party with them. No, this is their moment. No.
So
Chris,
Chris,
the only one that has the right to do that is probably Michael Ruzioni. So yeah, but like I said, I couldn't be happier for them.
so Sunday morning, you're watching the game. You're in your stateside. How did it come to be that they called you? Who did you communicate with directly, and what did that feel like?
Every game, when they got to the rink and got in the dressing room and were getting ready, taping their sticks and preparing for the game, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk were FaceTiming me. And as guys were walking by, everybody's saying hi, and I'm trying to, get them fired up, and they're getting me fired up. And it just continued after the first game. So, we're superstitious, a lot of guys. And, Matthew just continued to do it every day. So that last game, at 4 a.m, I set my alarm the night before thinking these guys are going to call me regardless of the time change, and they did. So it was awesome. Like, it makes you feel good. I got to know the guys from the 80 team and had all the respect for them. And the way these guys, kept me relevant, and, Matthew, I've known him, like Jeremy was talking about, since they were kids. It's just incredible to see that, and then, see their father, Keith Tkachuk, after the game. I talked to him. He looked like he'd been through the war. But, yeah, everything about it. And like I said, I thank these guys for keeping us relevant and mentioning us every here and there. And it's a great feeling for all of the USA Hockey players and former guys.
The soundbite of Jack Hughes after the game with Catherine Tappan talking about the hockey brotherhood and all of the guys that paved the way for USA Hockey to win gold and bring home the gold. How would you describe what that hockey brotherhood has meant to you and the way that this group embodied it?
Yeah, as I mentioned, unfortunately in 80, I was in Canada, and I listened to Jeremy. I'd had to listen to Jeremy's interview, but Jeremy, if you weren't in Milan for the game live, Jeremy was in the next best place after they had won. Because and I was in Moose Jaw at the time when the 80 team won. And these guys in Canada, this is how, strongly they felt. When we were listening to the gold medal game on the bus to one of my games, they turned the radio off. So I couldn't find out, that the 80 team had won until the next day. And I didn't get to experience that. I was up in Canada. But this time around, the players, and I got to know those 80 guys. I went out of my way to, talk to those guys in the 1980 team. So fast forward, as you asked me, it is a brotherhood, and we were a group that was quite frustrated, our generation, because we only came up on top one time in '96. So many heartaches, heartbreaks over the years in World Cups, Olympics. But these guys, I think Larkin said it best, and it was just a great line he used, is that he said that we walked so they could run, and that's a perfect, way to say it. And I like I said, I can't thank these guys enough for including us, and the way they spoke and how they handled themselves after. It's just a great group of kids. I think a lot of it's got to do with these kids. Some of them, or most of them, were together when they were 17, 18, 19 in that development program. So these guys, this is the closest team I've ever seen, U.S. team, ever in my life.
We're talking with BetMGM ambassador Chris Chelios here on The Score. BetMGM, make it legendary. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, Chelly, first time in 46 years. After that 1980 experience, obviously you saw an uptick in hockey and how popular the sport became. And now I wonder, are we on the verge of another resurgence? What effect will this have on young hockey players watching on television, wanting to be Jack Hughes, emulating Matt Boldy, and wanting to be Connor Hellebuck, whatever the case may be? You are the godfather of USA Hockey. What effect do you think this will have on the youth hockey players?
Oh my God, there's no question, and that it happens. When Chicago was winning the Stanley Cups, how that youth hockey just blows up, and in this sense, that's just one city, right? Chicago or state. Now you got a whole country, absolute whole country that watch this, and kids that watch this, and you're darn right. Every kid wants to be Jack Hughes. The goalie Hellenbuck, what he accomplished was amazing. So this is huge for you. Talk about growing the game, and especially in the U.S. here. Well, you couldn't ask for a better scenario with the rivalry against Canada, and then us coming up out on top and the heroes. It really is an amazing thing for U.S. hockey and the kids in this country. Thousands of kids are going to want to play hockey now.
Boys and girls. Right, Chelly? That's what's so cool about this year. And I think there are a lot of little girls watching hockey saying they want to be the next Abby Murphy, or they want to be, winning gold for their country.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that too. Like, again, I've got granddaughter that skates, and they watched it. She's 5 years old, and that Abby Murphy, that game-saving back check on that 2-on-0, God, it's just, I get goosebumps thinking about her and watching her. She's my favorite. If anybody was like me, I think I'm Abby Murphy. That, like, the way she plays and the South Side in her, I just love the way she plays. And to all the women, Hillary Knight of Lake Forest, she's a native there, so we're represented so well in Chicago. And as you said, these little girls, these little boys, these are going to be these are their heroes, and they're going to be there someday and dream, live that dream, hopefully.
And don't you have a connection with Hellebuck? Was he a guy that in suburban Detroit? He grew up there, correct? And did you have a connection with him, Chelly?
No, I never met Connor. No, I've never met him.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm confusing that with, but he was the guy who should have been the MVP of this tournament. And I know it went to McDavid, and I understand the reasons why. But Jack Hughes' goal was great. Boldy's goal was important, but you don't win a gold medal without Connor Hellebuck.
No question. And I hear these people saying, McKinnon, I'm sure it's a tough time. He's got to have to watch that highlight of him missing the empty net. But you'd think he'd be a little more gracious on that. But, yeah, of course Hellebuck had a great game, but there's always heroes when you win. And there's no question it was meant to be, that save on Taze. I'd never seen anything like it, but it's not like they got outplayed. They got the lead. They protected that lead. There was no 2-on-1s. I think Hellebuck would have preferred a breakaway when it's 1-on-1 as opposed to a 2-on-1. It gives them a better chance, and he just wasn't going to be denied. And, we had some chances to win too. And Binnington, the good thing about this game was there were no goats. Like, it was just heroes and no blatant mistakes by anybody. It was just just like the Four Nations. There wasn't a loser. And in this sense, forget about deserve. Who deserves to win? The team that wins, and we deserved it. So, God bless them. It would have been a heartbreaker, but again, they did what they needed to do to win. And, I couldn't be happier for this group of guys and all of USA hockey in the country.
Okay, I have to ask you what you think of the 3-on-3 in overtime.
The rules are the rules.
Right.
And I guess Cooper, I didn't hear him, I didn't hear him say it. I know he said it. It's not the way it should. But you know what? He wasn't saying anything, and I love John Cooper. We're really good friends. He wasn't saying it in the quarterfinal game. So, you know what? It's an emotional time for them. Canada, obviously, they think they're the best. But you know what? They always say it's their game. Well, they can't say that anymore. Right now that's our game. It was our day, and we proved it by winning. That's all. So it is the rules, and it's an Olympic rule, so that's the way it is.
Charlie, before we let you go, got to know this. Next time you get some, maybe after the season, maybe Jack Hughes is in town, will you take him back to Chicago Cup, where this odyssey began back in November? He cuts his hand, he gets surgery, he comes back, he's well rested for the Olympics, and then history happens. So you got to go back to Chicago Cup with your guy David Flom.
Oh, no question. Like I said, we're superstitious guys, the hockey players, and I'm not going to take credit for him cutting his hand. I'll tell you that, because that was no part. I was already gone by then. But yeah, those. Like I said, it's the first time I really got a chance to sit down with Jack and his brother. Like I said, they're just wonderful kids. They're respectful. Anyway, any press is good press, right? So Chicago Cut got a little plug out of that. It was awesome. So, yeah, but I will be back, and that goes for every Olympian, when they come back and play the Blackhawks. I can't wait to see them and shake their hands and give them a big Blackhawk hug.
Real quick, Chelly, when you FaceTimed the guys, at the Olympics. What did you say to them after that game?
Well, I'm just like I said, the highlight was when they FaceTimed me after they won in the dressing room as they were like dumping champagne all over each other. And Matthew Tkachuk was just the phone going from player to player, and it was incredible. Like it really was. So at that point, and you're not going to believe this, but I was in the hospital with my mom, and I was screaming without realizing it. And these poor old 90-year-olds and 92-year-olds are. And I was dropping the F-bomb, unfortunately, in there, like, to these guys. And so that was bad, but I got caught up in the moment.
Were you just saying how proud you were of them? Was that sort of the gist of it? I
mean, it was just so loud.
Chaos.
And
yeah.
It was just screaming and just the big smiles on my face, on their faces. That was, it was an unbelievable experience for me for those guys to, like, take that second and call me in their moment of glory there.
Hope your mom's doing okay, and really appreciate your time this morning, Chris.
She's doing great. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
she's doing great. Thanks.
Good.
Thanks, Chelly. Chris
Thanks, Chelly.
Chelios.
Great stuff.